Max, Sterling stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his shirt for what felt like the 100th time. The vibrant San Francisco skyline loomed outside his apartment window, but his mind was focused on one thing: his sister Sarah's housewarming party. It wasn't just a celebration of her new home. It was an opportunity to reconnect with family and friends. As he arrived at Sarah's charming Victorian house, he was greeted by the aroma of freshly baked goods and the sound of laughter. The living room was filled with colorful decorations and a mix of familiar faces. Among them was Liam, Max's older brother, who had been married to Sarah for 2 years. "Max, you made it," Liam exclaimed, pulling him into a warm embrace. "You have to meet our new neighbor. He's quite the character." Intrigued, Max followed Liam into the backyard where a small group had gathered. That's when he saw Ethan Caldwell, a tall, rugged man with tousled hair and piercing blue eyes. He was laughing heartily at something Sarah had said, his smile infectious. "Ethan, this is my brother Max," Liam introduced them. Max felt a rush of warmth as Ethan turned to him. "Nice to meet you, Max. I just moved here from a small town, still getting used to the city life. Welcome to the chaos," Max replied, trying to mask his nervousness with humor. "So what brings you to San Francisco?" "I'm a carpenter," Ethan said proudly. "I love working with my hands and creating things." Max's interest peaked. "A carpenter? That's impressive. I can barely assemble IKEA furniture without losing my mind." Ethan chuckled, and their conversation flowed easily, filled with playful banter that left Max feeling unexpectedly giddy. As the party continued into the evening, Max found himself gravitating towards Ethan more often than not. They shared stories about their lives, Max's passion for graphic design, and Ethan's love for woodworking. "Have you ever tried using a chisel?" Ethan asked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Only when I'm trying to carve my initials into something," Max joked. Ethan laughed heartily, leaning closer as he explained the intricacies of woodworking tools. There was something magnetic about Ethan. The way he spoke passionately about his craft made Max's heart race. When Sarah announced a game of charades, Max found himself on a team with Ethan. Their chemistry became even more apparent as they worked together to guess clues. Their laughter echoed under the stars, creating an electric atmosphere that neither could ignore. As the night wore on and guests began to leave, Max felt a strange sense of disappointment at the thought of parting ways with Ethan. He wanted to know more about him, his dreams, his fears, and everything that made him who he was. After the last guest departed and Sarah began tidying up, Max lingered in the backyard, stealing glances at Ethan as he helped Sarah carry in empty dishes. "Hey," Ethan said as he approached Max, wiping his hands on a towel. "Thanks for being such a good sport tonight." "Of course. It was fun," Max replied, unable to hide his smile. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Ethan spoke again. "I'm glad we met tonight." "Me too," Max said softly, feeling a warmth spread through him at Ethan's words. Just then, Sarah called out from inside. "Max, come help me with these chairs." With one last lingering look at Ethan, Max turned to go inside, but felt an undeniable pull toward him that he couldn't quite explain. As he helped Sarah with the chairs, he couldn't shake off the feeling that this night marked the beginning of something special. The evening ended with laughter and light-hearted conversations echoing in his mind as he left Sarah's house. But as he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, it wasn't just memories of family gatherings that filled his thoughts. It was Ethan's smile and the spark they had shared. The following week felt like an eternity for Max. Every day, he found himself replaying the moments from Sarah's housewarming party in his mind. The laughter, the playful banter, and especially Ethan's captivating smile. He couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something special about their connection, something that went beyond mere friendship. One sunny Saturday afternoon, as Max was sketching designs for a new project at his favorite cafe, his phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Hey, Ethan is coming over to help with some repairs. Want to join us?" Max's heart raced at the thought of seeing Ethan again. He quickly typed back, "Absolutely, I'll be there in a bit." Arriving at Sarah's house, Max felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by the familiar scent of fresh paint and saw Ethan already hard at work in the living room. He was kneeling on the floor, measuring something with intense focus. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow around him, highlighting his strong features. "Hey, Max." Ethan looked up and smiled, his eyes lighting up at the sight of him. "Glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," Max replied, trying to sound casual while feeling butterflies in his stomach. Sarah walked in with a paintbrush in hand, her hair tied up in a messy bun. "Perfect timing. I need someone to help me paint the kitchen while Ethan handles the repairs." Max nodded enthusiastically. "I can do that." As they moved into the kitchen, Max picked up a paintbrush and dipped it into the vibrant blue paint Sarah had chosen. The walls were bare and needed a fresh coat to match her lively personality. As they painted together, Sarah chatted animatedly about her yoga classes and upcoming workshops, but Max's focus was entirely on Ethan. Every now and then, he would glance over at Ethan, who was busy fixing a loose cabinet door. The way he worked with precision and care was mesmerizing. There was an ease about him that made Max feel comfortable yet exhilarated. "Max," Sarah called out, breaking his reverie. "You're getting paint everywhere." Max looked down to see blue splatters on his shirt and laughed sheepishly. "Guess I'm not as skilled with a brush as I thought." Ethan chuckled from across the room. "Don't worry, it adds character." Their eyes met for a moment, an electric connection that sent shivers down Max's spine. He felt a warmth spread through him that had little to do with the paint or the summer sun. After finishing one wall, they took a break. Sarah headed to the kitchen to grab some drinks while Max and Ethan stood outside on the porch. "Thanks for coming today," Ethan said, leaning against the railing casually. "I really enjoy working with you." Max felt his heart race at Ethan's words. "I enjoy it too. It's nice to have someone to share this with." Ethan turned to him, his expression serious yet soft. I've been thinking about what you said at the party, about how you admire craftsmanship." Max swallowed hard, feeling vulnerable under Ethan's gaze. "Yeah? What about it?" "I think there's something beautiful about creating things together," Ethan replied thoughtfully. "It's like building something meaningful." Max nodded slowly, feeling a rush of emotion swell within him. "I agree. It feels connected." Just then, Sarah returned with cold drinks and broke the moment again. "You two looked deep in conversation. What are you plotting?" "Just discussing paint techniques," Max replied quickly, trying to hide his flustered expression. As they resumed painting and chatting, Max couldn't shake off the feeling that something significant was unfolding between him and Ethan, a connection that was growing stronger with each passing moment. Later that afternoon, after they finished painting and tidying up, Sarah suggested they take a break and enjoy some snacks outside on the porch. As they sat together under the shade of an umbrella, sharing stories and laughter over sandwiches and lemonade, Max felt an undeniable sense of belonging wash over him. He watched Ethan animatedly recounting a funny story about one of his carpentry jobs, his hands moving expressively as he spoke. Max found himself captivated not just by Ethan's words, but by everything about him. His passion for life, his kindness, and that infectious laughter that made everything feel lighter. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues across the sky, Max realized he didn't want this day to end. He wanted more moments like this, more laughter shared with Ethan under warm skies. But as they finished their snacks and prepared to say goodbye for the day, doubt crept into Max's mind. Was he reading too much into their connection? Was there really something between them? Ethan stood up first and turned to Max with that same warm smile that made his heart flutter. "Thanks for today, it was fun." "Yeah," Max replied softly. "It really was." As they exchanged goodbyes and Max walked back to his car, he couldn't help but feel hopeful yet anxious about what lay ahead. The possibilities seemed endless, but so did his fears. The following weekend, the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the distant sound of laughter from children playing in the park nearby. Max woke up with a sense of anticipation, knowing that he would be seeing Ethan again. Sarah had invited him over to help with some home renovations, and Max was eager to spend more time with the man who had captured his thoughts so completely. As he arrived at Sarah's house, he felt a familiar flutter of excitement in his stomach. The sun was shining brightly, and the vibrant colors of the garden made everything feel alive. He knocked on the door, and Sarah opened it with a bright smile. "Max, you're just in time," she exclaimed, ushering him inside. "Ethan is already here, and we've got a lot to do today." Max's heart raced at the mention of Ethan's name. He followed Sarah into the living room, where Ethan was busy laying out tools on a workbench. He looked up as they entered, and his face broke into a warm smile that sent a rush of warmth through Max. "Hey, Max, ready to get your hands dirty?" Ethan asked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Always," Max replied, trying to sound confident despite the butterflies in his stomach. Today's project involved building a new bookshelf for Sarah's living room. As they gathered materials and discussed designs, Max couldn't help but admire Ethan's expertise. He moved with such ease and confidence, explaining each step as if it were second nature to him. "Okay, first we need to measure everything precisely," Ethan said, pulling out a tape measure. "Want to give it a shot?" Max nodded eagerly as Ethan handed him the tape measure. Their hands brushed against each other for just a moment, sending an electric jolt through Max. He tried to focus on the task at hand as he measured the length of the wall where the bookshelf would go. "Perfect. Now let's mark it," Ethan instructed, leaning in closer to show Max how to make accurate markings on the wall. As they worked side by side, Max found himself lost in the rhythm of their collaboration. They laughed and joked about their different skill levels. Ethan was clearly a pro, while Max was still learning, but there was an undeniable chemistry between them that made every moment feel charged. After marking and measuring, they moved on to cutting the wood pieces. Ethan demonstrated how to use the saw with precision, explaining safety tips along the way. Max watched intently, fascinated not just by Ethan's skill, but by his passion for what he did. "Want to give it a try?" Ethan asked after finishing one cut. Max hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "Sure, just guide me through it." Ethan stepped beside him and showed him how to position his hands safely on the saw. "Just remember to take your time," he said softly, their shoulders brushing against each other as they stood side by side. With Ethan's guidance, Max took a deep breath and began cutting through the wood. The sensation of using the saw was exhilarating. It felt empowering to create something tangible with his own hands. "Nice job," Ethan praised as Max finished the cut. The pride in his voice made Max beam with happiness. As they continued working together, they fell into an easy rhythm, talking about everything from favorite movies to childhood memories. Each shared story brought them closer together, revealing layers of their personalities that made them both laugh and connect on a deeper level. At one point during their break, Sarah brought out freshly baked cookies and lemonade. They sat outside on the porch steps, enjoying their treats while soaking up the sun. "You two are quite the team," Sarah remarked playfully as she watched them interact. "I might just have to hire you both for all my home projects." Max exchanged a glance with Ethan that spoke volumes. There was something undeniably special about this moment together. As they finished their snacks and returned inside to continue working on the bookshelf, Max felt an overwhelming sense of contentment wash over him. He realized he didn't just enjoy spending time with Ethan, he craved it. After hours of hard work filled with laughter and camaraderie, they finally stepped back to admire their creation, a sturdy bookshelf that stood proudly against the wall. "We did it," Max exclaimed, feeling a rush of accomplishment. Ethan grinned widely. "Yeah, it looks amazing." In that moment of triumph, something shifted between them, a realization that this connection was more than just friendship. There is an unspoken bond growing stronger with each shared experience. As they cleaned up their tools and prepared to leave for the day, Max felt an urge to say something meaningful, to express how much these moments meant to him. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, Sarah called out from another room, "Hey guys, let's take a picture with our new bookshelf." They gathered together in front of their creation while Sarah snapped photos. Max standing close to Ethan, feeling warmth radiating from him like sunlight on his skin. Afterward, as they said their goodbyes and stepped outside into the golden evening light, Max felt an ache in his chest at the thought of parting ways. "Thanks for today," he said sincerely as they stood at Sarah's door. "I had an incredible time." "Me too," Ethan replied softly, his gaze lingering on Max's face for just a moment longer than necessary. "We should do this again sometime." Max nodded eagerly. "Definitely." As he walked back to his car that evening, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something profound was unfolding between them, a connection that felt both exhilarating and terrifying all at once. The following week felt like a whirlwind for Max. He couldn't stop thinking about Ethan, the way they worked together, the laughter they shared, and the undeniable chemistry that seemed to spark between them. Every moment spent with Ethan lingered in his mind, filling him with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Max decided to invite Ethan over to his apartment. He had been working on a graphic design project that he thought Ethan might appreciate, and he wanted to spend more time with him outside of Sarah's house. With a quick text, he sent the invitation. "Hey, want to come over and check out my latest design? I could use your opinion." To his delight, Ethan replied almost immediately, "Absolutely. I'd love to see what you're working on." As the clock ticked closer to their meeting time, Max felt a familiar flutter of nerves in his stomach. He tidied up his apartment, making sure everything was in order, his sketchbooks stacked neatly, the coffee table cleared, and a fresh pot of coffee brewing in the kitchen. He wanted everything to be perfect. When the doorbell rang, Max's heart raced. He opened the door to find Ethan standing there, looking effortlessly handsome in a casual t-shirt and jeans. His smile was bright, and it sent a rush of warmth through Max. "Hey, thanks for inviting me over," Ethan said as he stepped inside. "Thanks for coming. I'm excited to show you what I've been working on," Max replied, trying to keep his voice steady. They settled onto the couch, and Max pulled out his laptop to display his latest design project, a series of posters for an upcoming art exhibition. As he explained his ideas and concepts, he noticed how engaged Ethan was, leaning forward with genuine interest. "I love your color choices," Ethan said, pointing at the vibrant hues on the screen. "They really capture the energy of the exhibition." Max felt a surge of pride at Ethan's praise. "Thanks. I wanted it to feel lively and inviting." As they discussed the designs, their conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and playful teasing. Max found himself opening up more than he had anticipated, sharing stories about his creative process and the challenges he faced as a graphic designer. "You know," Ethan said thoughtfully as they moved on to another design, "I admire how you express yourself through your art. It takes courage." Max felt a blush creep up his cheeks at Ethan's words. "I appreciate that. It can be scary putting myself out there." Ethan nodded in understanding. "I get it. I feel that way about my carpentry sometimes. It's like every piece I create is a part of me." Their eyes met for a moment, an unspoken understanding passing between them that made Max's heart race. There was something profound about sharing their vulnerabilities. It brought them closer together in ways that words alone couldn't express. After finishing up with the designs, Max suggested they take a break and grab some coffee from the kitchen. As he poured 2 mugs, he felt a sense of comfort in their easy camaraderie. "Do you have any hobbies outside of work?" Max asked as they settled back onto the couch. Ethan took a sip of his coffee before responding. "I love hiking and being outdoors. There's something refreshing about being surrounded by nature." Max smiled at that image. Ethan exploring trails under towering trees or standing atop a mountain with the wind in his hair. "That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to go hiking more often." "Let's plan a hike sometime," Ethan suggested casually, but there was an intensity in his gaze that made Max's heart skip a beat. "Yeah, I'd love that," Max replied quickly, feeling excitement bubble up inside him. As they continued talking about their interests and passions, Max felt an overwhelming sense of connection with Ethan, a bond that seemed to deepen with every shared story and laugh. But beneath that connection lay an undercurrent of tension. Both men were acutely aware of the growing chemistry between them. At one point during their conversation, Ethan leaned back against the couch, looking thoughtful. "You know, I've been thinking about what you said last week, about building something meaningful together." Max felt his breath catch. The following week was a blur of emotions for Max. He found himself oscillating between excitement and anxiety, especially after his dinner with Ethan and Sarah. The chemistry between him and Ethan had become undeniable, yet Max felt a nagging fear that he might ruin their friendship if he took a leap into something deeper. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Max decided to take a walk along the Embarcadero, hoping the fresh air would clear his mind. The bustling waterfront was alive with people. Families enjoying picnics, couples strolling hand in hand, and street performers entertaining passersby. As he walked, he couldn't help but think about Ethan and the connection they shared. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from Ethan. "Hey, I'm at the park nearby. Want to join me?" Max's heart raced at the invitation. He quickly replied, "On my way." As he approached the park, he spotted Ethan sitting on a bench under a large oak tree, sketching something in his notebook. The sight of him brought a smile to Max's face. He looked so focused and serene, completely absorbed in his art. "Hey there," Max called out as he walked closer. Ethan looked up and grinned. "Hey, I'm glad you could make it." Max sat down beside him, peering over at the sketch. "Wow, that looks amazing. Is that a design for a new project?" Ethan nodded, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "Yeah, I've been working on some ideas for a new furniture line. I want to incorporate more natural elements." As they talked about Ethan's designs, Max felt the familiar warmth spreading through him. There was something about being with Ethan that made everything else fade away. The noise of the city, the worries in his mind. Everything felt right in this moment. After discussing the sketches for a while, Ethan closed his notebook and looked at Max with an intensity that made his heart race. I've been thinking about what we talked about last week, about building something meaningful." Max swallowed hard, feeling a mix of anticipation and fear. "Yeah, I really appreciate our friendship," Ethan said slowly, searching Max's eyes for understanding. "But I can't help but wonder if there's something more between us." Max's breath caught in his throat as he processed Ethan's words. This was the moment he had both longed for and dreaded. "I've thought about it too," he admitted finally, feeling vulnerable yet hopeful. Ethan leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to rush things, but I feel this connection with you that I can't ignore." Max's heart raced as he met Ethan's gaze. Those deep blue eyes filled with sincerity and longing. It felt like the world around them had faded away. All that mattered was this moment. "I feel it too," Max confessed, his voice trembling slightly. "I've been scared to say anything because I didn't want to ruin what we have." Ethan smiled softly, relief washing over his features. "I think we're both on the same page then." In that instant, everything shifted between them. The air crackled with unspoken possibilities as they both leaned in closer, an invisible force drawing them together. Just as their lips were about to meet, a loud commotion erupted nearby. A group of children laughing and playing tag burst onto the scene, shattering the moment like glass. Max pulled back abruptly, feeling flustered and embarrassed as he glanced away from Ethan. Wow," he stammered, trying to regain his composure. Ethan chuckled softly, breaking the tension between them. "Well, that was almost a moment." "Yeah," Max replied with a nervous laugh. "Maybe we should find somewhere quieter?" Ethan nodded in agreement. "Let's go for a walk along the waterfront." They stood up and began walking side by side along the path that hugged the bay. The sun was beginning to set, casting warm hues of orange and pink across the sky. A perfect backdrop for what felt like an important turning point in their relationship. As they strolled along the water's edge, they talked about everything and nothing at all, sharing stories about their childhoods and dreams for the future, while occasionally stealing glances at each other that sent butterflies fluttering in Max's stomach. Eventually, they found a secluded spot on a small pier where they could sit, without distractions. The sound of gentle waves lapping against the wooden posts created a calming atmosphere as they settled down side by side. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Of course," Max replied curiously. "What scares you the most about taking this step?" Ethan asked gently. Max took a deep breath, contemplating his answer. "Honestly, it's fear of vulnerability, of opening myself up completely to someone else again after getting hurt before." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "I get that, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, whatever happens." Max felt warmth spread through him at Ethan's words. It was comforting to know that they were both navigating this journey together. "And what about you?" Max asked in return. Ethan hesitated for a moment before answering honestly. I guess my biggest fear is messing things up between us or not being enough. Max reached out and placed his hand over Ethan's, a simple gesture that spoke volumes about their growing connection. You're more than enough, just as you are. Their eyes locked once again, this time without interruption, and in that moment of shared understanding and vulnerability, Max leaned in closer once more. This time there were no distractions, no children playing nearby, or laughter breaking through their bubble of intimacy. Just two hearts ready to embrace what lay ahead. As their lips finally met in a soft kiss, tentative yet filled with promise. Max felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. It was as if all his fears melted away in that instant. Nothing mattered except this connection they were forging together. When they pulled back slightly, both breathless and smiling like fools under the fading light of dusk, Max knew deep down that this was just the beginning of something beautiful, a journey filled with love and discovery alongside someone who understood him completely. The following week felt like a dream for Max. After that unforgettable kiss with Ethan, everything seemed brighter, more vibrant. He couldn't help but replay the moment in his mind, the way their lips had brushed against each other, igniting a spark that had been building for weeks. Each time he thought about it, a smile spread across his face. As the days passed, Max and Ethan began to spend more time together. They explored the city, visited art galleries, and shared meals at cozy cafes. Each moment felt like a new adventure, and with every shared laugh and stolen glance, their connection deepened. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Max invited Ethan over to his apartment to cook lunch together. He had been experimenting with a new recipe, a spicy pasta dish, and he was excited to share it with Ethan. As he prepped the ingredients in the kitchen, he felt a thrill of anticipation at the thought of spending time with him. When Ethan arrived, he walked into the kitchen with a bright smile and a bouquet of fresh basil in hand. "I thought this might come in handy for your pasta," he said, handing it to Max. "Perfect. You know me too well," Max replied, feeling his heart flutter at Ethan's thoughtfulness. They worked side by side in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and stirring sauces while exchanging playful banter. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and the delicious aroma of garlic and tomatoes wafting through the air. "You know," Ethan said as he stirred the sauce, "I've never really cooked much before. It's kind of nice to learn something new." Max glanced over at him, noticing how focused Ethan looked as he carefully followed instructions. "You're doing great. Cooking is just like carpentry. Once you get the hang of it, you can create something amazing." Ethan chuckled. "I guess that's true, but I still think making furniture is a bit more my speed." As they sat down to enjoy their meal, Max felt a sense of warmth enveloping him. They talked about everything, what they wanted to achieve in their careers, their favorite childhood memories, and even their dreams for the future. It was easy to open up around Ethan. He had a way of making Max feel safe and understood. After finishing lunch, they decided to clean up together. As they washed the dishes side by side, Max couldn't help but steal glances at Ethan. The way he smiled while scrubbing a plate or how his hair fell slightly over his forehead made Max's heart race. "Hey," Ethan said suddenly, breaking Max out of his thoughts. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Max replied, turning to face him. "What are you most excited about in our relationship?" Ethan asked softly. Max paused for a moment, considering his answer carefully. "Honestly, just being able to share experiences with you, exploring new places together, and building something meaningful." Ethan smiled warmly at his response. "I feel the same way. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes." Just then, Max's phone buzzed on the counter. He picked it up and saw a message from Sarah. "Hey, want to join me for an outdoor movie tonight? I have extra tickets." Max looked at Ethan with excitement in his eyes. "Sarah wants us to join her for an outdoor movie tonight. What do you think?" Ethan grinned widely. "That sounds like fun. Count me in." As evening approached, they both got ready for the movie night. Max chose a casual outfit that made him feel comfortable yet confident, something that would impress Ethan without trying too hard. When they arrived at the park where Sarah had set up a picnic blanket under the stars, Max felt a rush of happiness seeing her excited face as she waved them over. "Yay, you made it!" Sarah exclaimed.